City and street determines zip code, correct? No, this first FD.
Yeah, I guess it's zip code that determines.
Sorry?
So I guess it's zip code that determines the city and street.
No, let's come to that later. Just talk about only this.
Yes, so it's correct.
How? Explain your answer so that others also can understand.
Like
Anybody
a
else?
particular street has
Huh?
the like a particular street has the pin code.
Sorry, no, I didn't hear you.
Like a particular area is given a pin code.
That's what. Support with an example. Where do you live? What is the pin code?
Like
Which
56
city you live?
0032.
Huh?
560032.
Sorry?
560032.
560032.
32.
Okay. So what is the city? Which city?
Bangalore.
Bangalore. Correct. Bangalore means there is some code, is it? In pin code? Starts with something like that. Is 56 telling you something compared to Delhi or Chennai or Hyderabad? Huh?
Yes, sir.
What is it? Don't give one word answer. Speak full sentences, not even one, multiple sentences. Keep talking. You talk to your friends, parents, brothers, sisters, correct?
Yes, sir.
Uh, so which area? 32 means?
Ganganagar.
Huh?
Ganganagar, sir.
Okay, some Nagar, Ganga Nagar or something, right? Koramangala, I think your college. What is the pin code? 560 college pin code.
Five 60034.
Who answered this? Ananya? No.
Aishwarya.
Huh?
Aishwarya, sir.
Aishwarya. Why you are swallowing your words? Be confident. You are all computer science, information science students. Be confident. Talk boldly. You do not know, Ananya, you do not know the pin code of your college. You are already in 5th semester. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now coming back, Ananya, CS arrow Z. Do you agree that this is correct or wrong? Hello.
No, No, so I don't agree.
Why?
So I think it's zip code that determines city and street.
Don't worry about that. Just worry about this. See, when I say Delhi, right? When I say
Yes, sir.
Delhi, there is some kind of a pin code which starts with some numbers, correct, Aishwarya?
Yes, sir.
Ah. And also these numbers, like the last 2-3 digits, also talks about the what? See, 32 she said Ganganagar, 34 is Koramangala, right? 10 is something, 001, sorry, 01 may be some area, correct? 70 may be some other area, Batnam Nagar, I think, correct? Starts with 56. When I say 11, for instance, does it signify Bangalore? Does it talk about Bangalore? No, correct? Correct, no?
Yes, sir.
So it is Delhi actually. So given a city and area, my zip code, there is some dependency, correct? This is common sense. You have to watch TV, you have to read newspaper, not during pandemic time, COVID-19. You can see, of course, news online. That's fine. Read news, watch TV, news channels, BBC, CNN, etc. Keep watching this. Try to understand what's happening in the world. Youngsters, you have to know. So this is correct. City and street actually determines zip code. That's what I have just now talked about. So 56 actually signifies that it is something to do with city, that is Bangalore. For some other city, the code may start with some other digits. Similarly, 34, 70, also talk about some area, so they have divided like that. There are some confusions because Bangalore is not a planned city. So if it is highly planned, yes, there will be a lot of 100% dependency, but there are some violations here also. But majority, I mean, predominantly, this FD actually holds. Now coming back to this again, now Ananya is very interested in this FD. Zip code determines city. Do you agree? I think you have said already you agree, correct, Ananya?
Yes, sir.
56 means 11 means Delhi. So given a zip code, you can easily say that it is something to do with this city and there's no problem. Correct, no? So both the FDs given are valid. You have understood now the relation. We have not come to the problem yet. Now anybody else, any other doubt? Okay, so now we'll have to find the key as usual. So now tell me the keys. So as usual, LS. So what is LS? Because the question is again you have to normalize it up to BCNF or 3NF. We'll see that. Okay, now S.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Right hand side.
Null, sir.
Null, sir.
Null, sir.
Good. Both sides.
C and Z, sir.
C and So you can see very easily even attribute closure is not required. Why? Because C and Z cannot be part of the, oh sorry, not that way. Oh, RS is null. Okay, sorry, we have to find. So S plus to verify, start with S. Can I add any attribute here?
No, sir.
CS is not a subset, is actually superset. Z is totally different, it's not a subset. So it ends here. So it doesn't determine, or I mean, it doesn't include all the attributes of R, and hence S is Fatima. Fatima, no?
Yes, sir.
Since yes, so not or yes is
Sir, it's not the candidate key.
good. So what we should do
So we should go ahead with other attributes.
from
SC, sir.
good,
S.
good. Okay. So start with SC. So we can include Z, first FD itself. So
Yes,
this
sir.
is a candidate key. Now similarly, yes with Z we can try, correct? So start with SZ. And Z is a subset, we can include C. So this also includes, so both SC and SZ are candidate keys. That's it. So SC and ZS both are candidate keys. Right, now we have to go for, I think, 3NF. I'm not sure what is this example talk about, but we'll see. Questions in the exam. It's like this only. You are given R with so many attributes, some FDs. Find the 3NF or BCNF. See which normal form suits. Wordings may be different, but ultimately you have to normalize. Okay, for which the first step is to find the keys. You have done it. Okay, the relation R is in 3NF. Let's see whether this is not part, I mean, a subset. It's not a trivial one. This is also not a trivial one. The second one, third one we can go because CS is a super key because that itself is a key. You can see here, and similarly this one. So that is not a super key and also it's not a trivial FD, but once again. Z. So this first FD satisfies the third condition of 3NF, and the second FD is not a trivial one, but C minus Z, the second one I'm talking about, C minus Z is C because Z is totally different. So C is part of the key. You can recall the 3NF definition. So is part of the key, the right hand side, and hence this has to be in compliance with the 3NF. So both the FDs satisfy the one of the conditions in 3NF, and hence the relation is in 3NF. 1 second. Hello, 1 second, hold on. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Yeah, so this is in 3NF, but it is not in BCNF mainly because this is fine, first FD, but the second FD Z is not a super key. So Z arrow C, because every FD either should be trivial or the left hand side should determine completely. That means should be a super key. But Z alone is not a super key because ZS is a super key. But Z is actually subset of this key. So that's why. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so because of the second FD, sorry, Z arrow C, this relation is not in BCNF. So as usual, we can just remove C because the right hand side should be removed from C, so you get SZ. So R1 will be SZ, and violating FD, this one is ZC. Okay, so these are the two relations which we have. So yeah, you can see ZC and SZ. So we apply Ullmann rule in order to make sure that it is decomposed and each one is a BCNF relation. So since R1 has only two attributes and R2 also has two attributes, we can say that both are in BCNF. So I'll show you the the thumb rule where that when a relation has only two attributes, we can declare. You can write this in exam also, absolutely no problem. If a relation has only two attributes, you can say directly, you don't need to do anything and say that it is already in BCNF. You can see any relation with exactly two attributes is in BCNF. Otherwise, you need to check. So this example is a very classic one where even with three attributes, we may require the decomposition of the relation. Any doubts? So this bullet, actually, this part of the slide explains the anomalies. So you can go through that, why it requires decomposition. Similarly, we can think of another meaningful relation where we have 4 attributes S, N, C, Z. S means name, C for course, and GPA, G for GPA, and S student number, C for course again, etc. So this is student number, name, course, GPA. So the first FD is name and course determines GPA. That's correct. See, you have to give a name and then course. Student number and course also determines GPA. Student number. So because of this, you may wonder, name may be duplicated. Then how? That means 2 or more people may have the same name. So how does it determine GPA? So that's where these 2 FDs come into picture. So name determines student number and student determines name. That means both should be unique, right? So that's what it indicates. Using student number, you can determine name. Using also, you can determine, for example, Scott may have 111 as the number. Now Scott again maybe 222. So what does it mean? This Scott is different and this Scott is different, just like your class, you know, Bindu, yes, Bindu S, 17 IS, there is 1 student, same Bindu S, there is 18. So name actually determines, so this Bindu is different from this Bindu. So name determines number and number also determines name. So that's where the 3rd and the 4th, you know, FDs come into picture. Because of this, you can easily say that either I use student number and course in order to determine what is the GPA, or name and course to determine GPA. So each relation will have some meaning. FDs will have some meaning. So you should understand this meaning carefully. So what are the candidate keys? So you can draw the dependency graph or LS, RS and BS, you know, all that. It's very easy that student number and course determines everything. I mean, all the other attributes. And similarly name and course. So I think we have done many problems, so we'll not waste time on it. If you want, you can just say, you know, LS name appears on both, course only once, so C, and number appears on either side. GPA will not be part of the key. So we have to select from student number and name along with the course. So when you take student number, it actually determines everything. Name also determines. So number and name. Okay, student number and name. So CN and CS. You can see CN and CS. Each one is a candidate key. So this is perfectly all right. But only thing is that we should find out whether it is in 3NF or not, and then go for decomposition if required. Any doubts? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so the relation is in 3NF. Okay, the slide says the relation is in 3NF. Why? We'll again take the definition. See, this is non-trivial, GPA. This may be trivial, but the first 2 are non-trivial because this is not a subset of the left-hand side. The right-hand side is not a subset. Okay, now let us take the FD1 itself, and point number 2 That is y minus x is part of the key. I think that also is not, because GPA minus this is GPA only. The third one is it a super key? Name and course. Yes, it is. Right? This also. Same thing is true even here. But the 3 and 4, I think it is not, because name is a subset and not a superset. So obviously third and fourth we have problems, and hence some FDs satisfy few points here in 3NF. Because remember, each and every FD should satisfy one of these three. So even if there is one FD, okay, even if one FD, I think there is a possibility. So this one, it satisfies the last. This one satisfies the last point because it's super key. If you take this student number, it's not a trivial one. This minus student number only, is it part of the key? Student number is part of the key only, not it determines fully. Okay, so we will just check this. Similarly, this one, same thing is true for this. So that's what I said, it is in 3NF because this is y minus x is student number only, and if it is part of the key, then it's okay. Fine. So let me just go back to 3NF definition so that we can ascertain, just for the benefit of you. See, X arrow of the form, each attribute in A, that is y minus x, is contained in CK. That's enough. So take each and every attribute after finding y minus x and see whether it is part of this candidate key. So in our case, okay, so student number minus name student number, and that only one attribute where A is part of the key. Yes, this is the student number and is the key, and it is part. So this also passes, and the same thing is true for name again because it's there. So this also is okay. So which means that every FD actually satisfies at least one of these three conditions in 3NF definition, and hence we can say that it is in 3NF. Okay, because FD1 and FD2, the left hand side is the key, that is super key. 3 and 4 right hand side is part of the prime, as we have just now discussed. But there are some problems. We have to check whether it's BCNF, some redundancy of data, because we have repeated several places your course, your name here is not required actually. So decomposition might help. So that's why it's called insertion anomaly, and deletion as well. That is, if a student fails in all subjects, we might lose student information. Okay, because we don't get GPA at all completely, and course details. So student details should be there, but only we should have the details of the students, even if he fails all subjects. So there are some anomalies, and hence it requires decomposition. Okay, so that's where it is not in BCNF. That's very, very evident because this passes, it's not trivial, but it's a super key. This is also super key, but 3 and 4 is not a super key. See, both these actually violates condition as well. Name is not a super key, student is not a super key because it's only a subset, just like the previous examples. So violating FDs are this, and probably we may have to remove this from the original relation, and as per Ullmann rule, you can decompose. So what we have here is, after decomposing, after removing the right hand side, we have relation 1 where we have student number, course and GPA, and the next one, student. Okay. So grade information is available, student information is available. So even if the student fails in all subjects, we don't lose because student and name is always there in this, irrespective of what scores the student has. So we don't delete or we don't bother about that. If at all the student has scored the GPA, so we can determine that student number and course. So it's perfectly all right as far as the normal database is concerned. Now, any doubts? Okay. We have now a very shortcut method. Actually, if you don't want to go through definitions, all that, BCNF I'm talking about. We have a very straightforward, at the same time, easier way of checking whether a relation is in BCNF or not. Okay, so this is and can be applied to any given relation and still it satisfies the original definition. So for each functional dependency x arrow y in R, calculate x plus. So for example, even this one, what you do is, in order to check whether it is in BCNF or not, take this left hand side and calculate the attribute closure and see whether it includes all the attributes. Okay, it should be true for every FD. So if x plus includes all the attributes of R, then it is in BCNF, otherwise it's not. But remember, it should be done for each FD. Just because one FD satisfies, it doesn't mean that you can do it. No. Right. So if x plus includes all the attributes of R, then it is in BCNF, otherwise it's not. Okay, next. We will take the same example of what we have said earlier, what we have seen earlier, but we have followed the definition way of checking. But here we check this. So now, directly you find CS plus. You can see here CS plus, it includes all, and also find for the second FD Z plus. But unfortunately, Z plus includes only 2 attributes, so it is not in BCNF. So whichever FD does not include all, that's a violating FD. Then you can apply Ullmann's rule in order to decompose. So now the idea is very simple, that take each FD and calculate the attribute closure of the left hand side, and if it includes all the attributes, done. Even if one FD doesn't include or find all the attributes, that is a violating FD. That means it's not in BCNF. You can decompose. So that's exactly what we have done even earlier in a roundabout method. But this is a very simple, straightforward, faster way of doing things. Any doubts? So you can follow any method, either this method or the previous method you can follow and find out whether it is in BCNF or not. Some questions, they may ask up to 3NF only, because a relation which is, say, a relation R which is in 3NF need not be in BCNF. Okay, observe carefully. A relation R which is in 3NF be in BCNF. But A relation which is in BCNF should be in 3NF. See, the reverse case also you should consider. So when I say relation is, because that's the definition. When I say 3NF, it should be already in 2NF. If I say BCNF, the relation should be already in 3NF. So all relations which are in BCNF should be in 3NF, and vice versa is not true. So up to 3NF means it's fine. BCNF, just leave it. That's also possible. Okay.